Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for being here. Before I start, though, I'll let you know up front that the family's attorneys are here. They're present. They will not be taking any questions here during the press conference in this room, in this space. We ask that you please be mindful of that. They'll be immediately available outside to answer any questions at the conclusion of the press conference. My name is Michael Miller. I am the Public Information Officer for the Akron Police Department. I'd like to give you a quick run through of how the press conference will go. You'll be hearing from 3 speakers today: Akron Mayor Dan Horrigan, Deputy Mayor of Intergovernmental Affairs Margot Somerville, and Akron Police Chief Stephen Mylett. After hearing from these speakers, you will see 2 videos. I'll say up front, at the start of the second video, for approximately 30 seconds, you'll hear no audio. And that's because the device itself, when you activate it, it goes back 30 seconds. It captures no sound, but it picks up the recording 30 seconds before the incident or the recording. The first video will be narrated video of the incident, starting with the pursuit. It will include some still shots. It will pause at points, and it will include some text, and we'll zoom in for clarity. The second video will be of an officer body cam footage, which will begin at the start of the pursuit, and it will end with the shooting. The video will be played from start to finish without pause, and will show the incident in real time. At the end of our press conference today, we will provide an opportunity for questions. Each outlet represented here today will have an opportunity to ask a question. There will also be a press kit available to members that will contain or include a map of the pursuit, a timeline of the incident, a transcript of the dispatch conversation during the pursuit, and basic information on the officers involved, including race, gender, years of service, and disciplinary record, if any. At the conclusion of the press conference, we'll be putting out a press release as well, and all body cam footage will be available. According to the city ordinance, we're required to release 3 body cam footages within the first 7 days, but we're going above and beyond that today due to the unique circumstances, and we'll be releasing all of the body cam footage in a short period of time at the press conference. This includes the 8 officers who were directly involved in the shooting, and additionally 5 other officers who were on scene but did not participate in the shooting. At this time, I would like to welcome Akron Mayor Dan Horrigan to the podium.
Thank you, Lieutenant. First of all, good afternoon. Thank you for being here. I know this is a somber occasion for all of us and for the entire city. Before I begin, let me again extend my condolences to the family and friends of Jayland Walker. I know that no amount of grief or prayer will bring Jayland back, but please know that the city mourns with you. Personally, there are no amount of superlatives, and I've talked about being beyond outraged, beyond shocked, and extremely heartbroken that I can use to describe my feelings. I won't mince words. The video you're about to watch is heartbreaking, and it's very tough to take in. And I know many of you will have questions after this press conference, and but I have a number of questions myself that need to be answered. But what I'd like to stress to the community, please, is that the independent, which is being the investigation, which is being conducted independently by an entity requested by Chief Mylett, which is the Bureau of Criminal Investigation, and the Attorney General's office, will take some time to work through. Our media information packet includes a rough timeline of how the investigation process will proceed, in addition to a timeline of events of this past Monday. And I am urging all of our residents, please reserve your full judgment until the investigation is complete. And listen, you'll have to do one of the most difficult things that I can ever ask somebody to do, and that is to please be patient and let the Attorney General do their work. Let me also emphasize the steps we've taken over a number of years to increase the transparency and the accountability with the Akron community, knowing that trust cannot exist without our commitment to openness. Almost exactly 1 year ago today, the Akron City Council voted to enact a new law that ensures the release of video footage which documents an Akron police officer's use of force within 7 days of the incident. This ordinance was first recommended by the city's Charter Review Commission and was overwhelmingly approved by the residents of Akron. And it is clear what our community wants is to be able to review the information for themselves, and it is our commitment to be open and transparent as we can be, given the fact that there is an independent investigation which we cannot put into jeopardy. Additionally, utilizing an independent entity to conduct the initial investigation into the incident will be a further step in increasing the trust and accountability with our citizens. Chief Mylett and I both believe that this is the best practice going forward, and which many communities across the country are now doing. And it is the direction that we intend to move towards in any future events of deadly force. Both the city and the Akron Police Department are fully committed to this process, and I have every confidence that the investigation will be conducted in a fair, thorough, and just manner. Many will wish to air their grievances in public, and I fully support our residents' right to peacefully assemble, but I hope the community can agree that violence and destruction are not the answer. And let me echo the calls from a number of elected officials and community members right here in Akron that calls for peace in our cities. This will be the constant urge over the next few days, is peace in our city. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and first and foremost, I would like to give my condolences to the loved ones of Jayland Walker. I know this young man was well loved and respected, and the weight of his loss is being felt across our city. Some years ago, when I decided to get involved in public service, public life, I had served as president of the Akron branch of the NAACP, and I decided I would run for office. One of my concerns was the Akron Police Department, some issues that they've had. One of the problems was like taking complaints and how they were handled. So as my time from leaving the NAACP presidency and then moving to the city of Akron, eventually becoming the council president, and now I'm senior advisor to the mayor, I have worked on a number of issues to try to strengthen the relationship between the police and the community. One was, first of all, hiring an outside independent police auditor, which we have in place, Mr. Phil Young. The auditor is supposed to look at trends in the police department. He looks at where we need to do training. He looks at if arrests were not handled the right way. We handle those all internally. And that has been a great start for us in this community. The other thing that has helped us also in this community, we do have body cameras from the officers. And the fact that we have that, that's why we're here today. We'll be able to look at the footage. The main thing we also should always look at too is the fact that we have this new ordinance that it had to be released in 7 days. The mayor could have did an executive order, but we did not do that. We took it to the Charter Review Commission. Council President is here, Marco Somerville. Professor Bill Rich from University of Akron Law School, who chaired that committee, came with the idea, along with the mayor, to put it in the charter. So now, when there is a police shooting, the police department or the chief can't say, I'm not releasing it. The mayor can't say, I'm not releasing it. It has to be released. And then the voters voted on it. Over 90% of the voters voted on that. And that is a huge thing that I don't think you'll find any other place in the country who's done that. As my many years of public service, I have never understood why police would handle their own investigation. And when it becomes into police-involved shootings, that has never sit right with me in this community. And now, since we have a new chief and the mayor, they've gotten together and they have asked for outside help in investigating this case. This is huge. This is definitely not business as usual. This move for this investigation to have an outside entity ensures that it'll be the fairest, most unbiased review of the facts, and that's the right decision at the right time. We also have with us today some of our residents who are here, some of the members of the faith-based community, some citizens who've been involved in the community here for this press conference, and we appreciate them being here too. Having this footage released today is a good step in the right direction. Make no mistake, what you will see in this footage is extremely upsetting. From here, we need to look at our process to get us to the next steps. An independent investigation at the state level will further that process. I know there's anger that when people see this video, it will cause them to become sickened as I was. I have a son, could have been my son. And quite frankly, our community has a right to voice their concerns and to protest. And we would ask them to do that. But what we would ask them to do, as the family has asked them to do, it's okay to protest, but we would also ask them to do it in a peaceful manner. We have asked for this type of transparency. Now we're getting into the investigation that we want. We have to be patient and allow the investigation to run its course. And remember, we're all in this together.
Good afternoon, everybody. I want to first echo the sentiments that were expressed by Mayor Horrigan and Deputy Mayor Somerville. I also want to express my deepest sympathies to Jayland's family. I cannot imagine the sense of loss, the pain that they're going through right now. As Marco mentioned, you know, in his personal life, my youngest is 25 years of age as well. And I cannot imagine what life would be like without my son. So again, Mrs. Walker, Jada, I'm very sorry for your loss. But I want to personally thank you. I want to personally thank you for the way in which you have been dealing with this situation. You have asked for peace in an environment that is ripe for aggression and violence. You have asked for trust and let this process move forward. If Jayland reflects the character of this family, which I continually heard that he did, you raised a good son. And again, my deepest condolences and sympathies. On Monday morning, officers of the Akron Police Department were involved in an officer-involved shooting. In a few moments, you will be seeing two videos that will address what led up to the shooting. When I was sworn in as Chief of Police 10 months ago, I began moving the police department in a direction to have outside independent investigations when officers are involved in a shooting. So on Monday morning, I formally requested the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigations to investigate this shooting. Some of the benefits of having an independent investigation include increased perceptions of credibility of the findings, increased transparency. The public tends to trust the results and fairness of the investigation, and quite frankly, this has become best practice in my profession. Joining us today is Mr. Joe Morbitzer, who is the Superintendent of the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigations. Mr. Morbitzer, I want to thank you for being here today, and I also want to thank you for your willingness to take this investigation on. At the conclusion of viewing the two videos, I will share a few comments and open up the press conference for questions. Please keep in mind that as you ask your questions, Mayor Horrigan and I may not be able to answer your question. First and foremost, we may not have the information. Secondly, we don't want to do anything that directly impacts the credibility and independency of this investigation. So we are going to both be mindful of how we respond. Since I just arrived here in Ohio 10 months ago, There may be questions that you ask that I will defer to our city's chief prosecutor, Mr. Craig Morgan, or Deputy Police Chief Brian Harding. At this time, we're going to play the first video, which Lieutenant Miller described to you. We hope this video will provide further context and details to the incident. Lieutenant Miller.
On Monday, June 27, 2022, at 12:30 in the morning, Akron police officers attempted to stop a silver Buick on East Talmadge Avenue near Thayer Street. Officers informed dispatch that the reason for the stop was for a traffic violation as well as an equipment violation. The driver of the vehicle refused to stop, and officers initiated a vehicle pursuit as the vehicle was nearing the East Talmadge Avenue entrance ramp to Route 8 southbound. Approximately 40 seconds after the driver of the vehicle fled from the attempted stop, a sound consistent with a gunshot can be heard on the body-worn cameras of the officers. Officers notified dispatch that a shot came out of the suspect's car door.
Getting onto 8 South from Talmadge. The reason for stop was traffic and equipment violation.
All cars. In effect.
21 shots fired. That vehicle just had a shot come out of its door.
At the time of the sound, a flash of light can be seen along the driver's side of the suspect vehicle. The vehicle pursuit continued on the expressway for several minutes, and the suspect vehicle exited onto the Archwood Avenue ramp. The pursuit proceeded through several city streets until he neared the intersection of East Wilbeth Road and Claremont Street. At that point, the driver slowed down and exited through the passenger side door of the moving vehicle wearing a ski mask. The suspect fled from the vehicle on foot, turning and facing officers momentarily. He continued to run, evading arrest. Officers attempted to safely take the suspect into custody by deploying their tasers. The deployment of tasers was unsuccessful, and the suspect continued to flee on foot. As the foot chase reached the nearby parking lot, the suspect stopped and quickly turned towards the pursuing officers. Officers reacted by discharging their firearms, striking the suspect. Under visual inspection of the suspect's vehicle, a handgun, a loaded magazine for a handgun, and what appears to be a gold wedding ring were observed in plain view on the driver's seat.
We will now show you the body-worn camera footage from the officer who was first involved in the pursuit. The video will start at the beginning of the pursuit and will end with the shooting of Mr. Jayland Walker. I want to offer caution for everyone that is watching that this video may be disturbing to some viewers, to many viewers, as it contains graphic images and language. For many reasons, it is difficult to watch. At the request of the Walker family, we have blurred Mr. Walker's body in the shooting event. Lieutenant?
24, is this the chase? So get your tires on, please.
24 for making a chase. 24, we're east on Talmadge, approaching Route 8 South, signaling to go 8 South. Speeds are 30. Getting onto 8 South from Talmadge. Reason for stop was traffic and equipment violation.
On cars. In effect.
21 shots fired. That vehicle just had a shot come out of its door. We're southbound on Route 8 now. Next cross is going to be Perkins, going across the Blue Bridge on Route 8 South. Speeds are 80, middle lane.
Gold Buick, black male driver, one occupant.
Silver Buick, one occupant. Looked like a black male driver. He's in the left lane, we're going 60.
You're staying back. But
24, we're okay. With the notes, the driver appeared to have
he pulled out
been grabbing something and a shot came out through his door.
He's definitely
We're 8
shot out.
South, just passing Perkins. 8 South, passing Perkins, middle lane, speeds are 72, light traffic. 8 South, passing exit 1A, speed 77, no traffic at this point.
Car 1 on secondary.
We're 8 South, towards 77 South, passing exit 0, just past the university. It's middle lane, speeds are 70. Now it's in the right lane, speeds are 70. Light traffic, vehicles are getting over. Continuing 8 South, speeds are 78. Light traffic. Vehicle's about 100 yards in front of us. Continuing 77 South, just past the interchange.
Car 4, requesting to join. I have 3 units in front of me. 4-6, car 4, go ahead. Everybody else, start blocking intersection, needs to get off. Any possible good position.
Yeah, units up there that are coming up on Lover's Lane. He's coming up on your left side just now. Just take caution. He was grabbing for a gun. He did fire a shot out the side of the door.
Who is that there?
All right, 24. We got 2 units in front of us.
Car 20, we're primary right behind it now. We're continuing off Route 8 South. Speed are we getting off here? We're going to be getting off at the Archwood exit. Speeds are 65 miles per hour. First, the red light at Archwood. He's going to be going through the red light, continuing southbound, approaching North Firestone. Traffic. Speeds are 35 miles per hour. Running the stop sign, is going to be going westbound on North Firestone Boulevard from here. He's going to go southbound on Neptune. Speeds are 30 miles per hour. There's no traffic on this road. Running the stop sign at Reed. He's going westbound on Reed from here. Strangers in the area, watch out for each other. Grab the intersection.
Southbound Oakwood.
Southbound on Oakwood. Speeds are 15 miles per hour. Approaching Cypress. Going to be going westbound on Cypress. Heading towards Redwood. We're passing Redwood. We're going to be approaching Brown Street. 46 on Brown Cypress, block intersection.
You got it.
They're
They're blocking. Go.
southbound Brown. We're returning westbound on Wilbit. Speeds are approximately 25 miles per hour. Still westbound on Wilbit. We're passing Glen Mount. Speeds are 55 miles per hour. Oh, 602, I'm west on Wilbit from Firestone. Can I get in? We're still westbound on Wilbit. We're passing Evergreen. We're heading towards Maine. Looks like we have some units up ahead at the intersection of Maine. He's slowing down here, slowing down. Slowing down.
I could ask our community members to please stand with me for just 1 second. Chief, Michael. There's no doubt that the video you just watched is extremely disturbing and will stir a lot of emotions and feeling. Shocking and hard to take in. But what we are collectively calling for is peace this afternoon. It's the same thing Mr. Walker's family is calling for, and it's the ask of everyone standing here with me in the community. Peace for our city, peace for our community, and peace for our residents. Thank you. Thank you all.
I understand the public's demand for information now. I understand that. I have questions that I want answered now. However, I echo the Walker's family's request for patience. We keep going back to the Walker family. They're requesting patience, peace, and to allow the process to run its course. Since Monday morning, information about this shooting has been disseminated through various outlets. I would encourage people to wait for BCI to conclude their investigation, submit their investigation to the Attorney General's office, and then the grand jury. The damage of spreading misinformation can cause irreparable harm. So before we receive BCI's final report, I would like to get some facts stated because I've seen a lot of misinformation circulated. As you've already heard, there were 8 officers who were directly involved in the shooting. All officers have been placed on paid administrative leave as per department policy, and which is routine when officers involved in a deadly force situation. That's standard across the nation. We do not know the exact number of rounds that were fired. Again, this is something that BCI will discover in their examination of evidence. However, based on the video, I anticipate that number to be high. A lot of rounds were fired. And I will not be surprised if the number at the end of the investigation is consistent with the number that has been circulating in the media. But right now, we just don't know. While BCI needs to confirm the number of times Mr. Walker was shot, the ME's report indicates over 60 wounds to Mr. Walker's body. However, they are still working to determine entrance and exit wounds, and this investigation on their end will take time. It will take time for them to determine how many times Mr. Walker was actually shot. And that work to make that determination is the responsibility of the medical examiner. as you could see in the video. There was a gun recovered from Mr. Walker's vehicle. At the time of the shooting, he was unarmed. Lastly, after the shooting ends, Akron police officers went to Mr. Walker and diligently provided first aid to save his life. One officer on a body cam footage can be heard saying he still has a pulse. As the officers were getting ready to put him into a police car to get him as quickly as possible to the hospital, Akron fire medics arrived on scene. They took over aid, and unfortunately, Mr. Walker tragically passed at the scene. Okay, Lieutenant, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we'll start with Q&A.
We're going to start by allowing each media outlet present to ask at least one question. We ask that you speak loudly so that your voice can not only be heard in this room, but also as part of the live stream that we're providing for the community. Understand again, and it's already been stated by the chief, that there are some questions that they cannot answer or may not answer because of the independent nature of the investigation, and also to preserve the integrity of the investigation. Some questions may not be answered for that reason. So at this time, I'll open up for questions. I am going to move intentionally to my left to right. We're going to ask one question each, and then we're going to move to the room from left to right, okay? We'll open it up at this time. Anybody? Sir?
Thank you, Lieutenant. A question for the police chief. At this point in time, Paul Sandoval at C9, based on what you've seen, chief, and understanding the investigation is less than a week old, and after seeing this very exciting video, what is it to you, or for you, what is the most concerning thing in the footage that you've seen so far?
It's the same thing that's most concerning to everybody else that just watched it. I'm going to say this. When an officer makes the most critical decision in his or her life as a police officer, doesn't matter where in the country this happens, when they make that most critical decision to point their firearm at another human being and pull the trigger, they've got to be ready to explain why they did what they did. They need to be able to articulate what specific threats they were facing, and that goes for every round that goes down the barrel of their gun. And they need to be held to account. Right now, as you pointed out, we're in the early stages of the investigation. The officers have not been able to provide a statement yet. I am reserving any sort of judgment until we hear from them. Just last night I spoke with the union president, and he told me that the officers are fully cooperating with the investigation.
Chief, I have a question.
Hang. Go ahead.
Chief, the attorney for the family, Bobby DiCello, says that he spoke with you and you told him and you told members of the legal team and members of the family that based on your viewing of the video that you had not seen evidence that Jayland Walker did anything threatening that precipitated the gunfire. Your response to that?
So I've watched this video more times than I cared to, but I've watched it at least 40 times. When you see it in real time, it's very hard to distinguish what Mr. Walker is doing. In the still photos, there's a picture that appears to all of us that Mr. Walker is going down to his waist area. There is a photograph that appears Mr. Walker was turning towards the officer, and there is a picture that captures a forward motion of his arm. At the crime scene, after the officers were involved in the shooting, they immediately get sequestered from one another, and they are monitored. When the investigative team arrives, they do an individual walkthrough of the crime scene. Each officer, independent of each other, related that they felt that Mr. Walker had turned and was motioning and moving into a firing position. So, again, BCI is going to do the investigation. I'm not prejudging it. and I'll leave it there.
Chief, please.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to understand a little better the gunshot from the car. Was there a bullet wound that exited the car from the inside, a bullet hole in the car?
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, the other part is, was the gun found with the magazine removed in this car?
Yes, the way in which that picture depicted where the gun was located and the way and the manner in which it was placed, officers are approaching the car on their body-worn camera, and it's capturing it as they are approaching. After the shot was fired, after the shooting occurred, we went back to the scene where we believe the shot was fired. A casing was discovered at that location, consistent with the firearm that Mr. Walker had in his vehicle. BCI will determine whether or not that casing came from the gun or not. And again, independent of anything we did, the ODOT camera captures what we believe to be a muzzle flash coming out of the car. Again, BCI will be determining whether or not that in fact is the case. Right.
Chief, as far as the chase goes, and wondering if this could have been avoided at all, could you talk at all about the protocol of the chase and the point of the gunshot being fired? Does that cancel any opportunity to call this chase off because of the gunshot?
Thank you for that question. It's a great question. So the initial attempt to stop Mr. Walker, as you heard on the audio, was for an equipment violation and for a traffic violation. I'm not exactly sure what the equipment violation was or what the traffic violation was. We will find that out, or BCI will discover that during their investigation. What was going to be a routine traffic stop, which would probably result either in a warning or a citation being issued, turned into a pursuit. As Mr. Walker turned onto the entrance ramp to Route 8 and the shot is fired, that changes the nature of the contact. 40 seconds after the initiation of the traffic stop, a half a mile from the location of the traffic stop, you hear the gunshot and then everything else that I've just discovered. And again, that changes the whole nature of the traffic stop. It went from being a routine traffic stop to now a public safety issue. And then the pursuit continued. Yes.
Chief, have the officers involved viewed any of the video before they made their statements?
They have not given statements yet, to my knowledge. And again, that part of my answer is us walling ourselves off from the investigation, and that will be determined by the Bureau of Criminal Investigation. Sir.
Chief, the initial officers on that approach to the car deployed tasers. Can we read into that? Does that mean they didn't see it as a lethal threat? What were they seeing that they chose to grab a taser versus their firearm?
I don't know. I'm not going to respond to that because it would be speculation. The officers will be given an opportunity to explain their actions. Sir.
Yes, Chief, in sort of 2012 in Cleveland, they had a sort of famous incident where 137 shots were fired into a car of unarmed people after a chase, and it received a lot of publicity. I'm curious if that incident, 137 shots into unarmed people which killed them in that incident, if that changed policies at all, either in the Akron department or other departments around the country.
So when that shooting occurred, I wasn't here in Akron.
Right.
I just got here last August. And you know, I'm trying to go back in memory. I can't recall exactly what we did as a profession following that, but I can tell you that we train in this police department. We go above and beyond in the police academy, the minimum required hours of training when it comes to firearms. Additionally, we go above and beyond the minimum requirement by the state for annual qualifications. And so I really can't answer fully that question. Yeah.
This question kind of dovetails with that. Is there any kind of rubric or protocol when multiple officers are firing, or how many rounds you fire when there's a single subject?
So officers are trained to, when they perceive a threat to themselves or to somebody else, that they are authorized to use their firearm to stop the threat. And they are authorized to use their firearm until that threat no longer exists or it stops. And that is the standard.
Young man in the back.
Chief, you mentioned several body cam videos, but is there also dash cam footage, and does any video cover the moment of actually attempting to pull him over?
So we don't have dash cameras in our fleet. No, sir.
And does
What was
any
your
video
second question?
Does any video record the actual moment where they attempted to pull him over for the alleged traffic infraction?
So again, everything that you saw right now is from body camera footage. We don't have dash cameras in it, and I'm not going to step into that part of the investigation. I will look to BCI to collect all that evidence. Sir.
Chief, you said you had...
Hang on 1 second. Go ahead, sir.
Chief, have you ever had a case where over someone up to the wedding room behind? I'm not asking you to speculate on this case, but have you ever had that happen before, and if so, why? And the second is just your gut feeling when you saw this video, if it was as many as 90 shots as has been reported, and I know you can confirm that, did that strike you as excessive?
I will say this, that it was difficult to watch and shocking, just like it is for everybody. I'm not passing judgment on the decisions my officers made. They will be given the opportunity to explain why they did what they did, as they should. In terms of your first question, I'm not going to speculate. Yes, I have seen that in my 33 years as a police officer, but I'm not going to go any further than that.
Chief, you said that you had questions yourself. What are they? What are your questions?
So I will reserve those for our administrative investigation. I'm not going to reveal those right now.
Why? Why not?
Because it would be improper. There's two separate processes that need to be respected. One is the independent external criminal investigation. The other one is the internal investigation. I will be getting with our Office of Professional Standards and Accountability, our Internal Affairs Unit, and I will discuss those questions with them.
Chief, what is the department's plan of action with a response from the public, given that this is now been released?
So number one, first and foremost, again, I praise and I thank the Walker family for calling for peace. We obviously, a focal message here today is just that. We have developed an operations plan to manage and to provide safe space in this city for people to peacefully protest. And in case that it turns to a situation where it's no longer peaceful, we have an operations plan in place for that as well, and I'm not going to discuss any of the details with that.
Anyone else on this side that I haven't already called on? Do you have a question before we shift the other direction? All right, go ahead, Doug.
The video ends at the deadly shooting to the garage of Bulls. Can you describe or explain the decision not to show anything afterward? What is protocol for securing somebody after that shooting, and what was done? Was he handcuffed? Go into a little more detail about the care that was given afterwards.
So the video footage will demonstrate a sergeant asking who fired. Officers who fired raised their hand, and they were immediately sequestered. Other body camera footage will show officers immediately going to Mr. Walker's aid to provide life-saving aid. And then it's just managing the crime scene. At the conclusion of this press conference, we will be sending out, in compliance with our ordinance, all video footage that is mandated by the ordinance.
That includes footage after the shooting?
I'm not sure how far after it would be, but all of that is going to be open records, and so
whatever the ordinance provides. That'll be
investigating.
One last question. We actually have time for just one last question. Go ahead.
Chief, can you explain why the officers have not yet made a statement? It's been almost a week, and will they be viewing this video?
So I can, again, we are walled off from the criminal investigation that is between BCI and the officers. The officers don't have to give a statement, okay? Every American is entitled to due process, and you know, they don't, just like everybody else, they do not have to give a statement. My understanding from the union president is they are going to fully cooperate with this investigation.
Okay, that concludes the press conference. At this time, there will be no additional questions, individual interviews. Hang on real quick. You guys, welcome. There'll be no, absolutely.